So I changed my shirt. So now it says Dan and Phil played me and all I got was this lousy t-shirt, because this is kind of how I'm feeling right now. I just kind of feel like this is all I have to show for it. It used to be a haha funny. I've had so much from being a Dan and Phil fan, not just this t-shirt, but now it's kind of like, yep. But it's not just this t-shirt, it's this t-shirt, and this t-shirt, and this t-shirt, and this t-shirt, and a sweatshirt, and a backpack, and this book, and 2 other books, and 3 tickets to go see them live. And cool. I want to start off by saying good for Dan and Phil for being able to be a public couple. That's great. Good for them. Hooray. Yay. That sounds sarcastic because I don't know how to show excitement. I also want to say that I don't feel like I was entitled to know about their relationship. If they had never talked about it, that would have been fine too. If it was always a secret, if they came out 10 years ago, I don't care if they're a couple. Good for them for being a couple. This is not about that. This is not about a moral obligation to tell your fans your personal life, or just because you're a public figure means you need to tell everybody everything if they pressure you or something like that. It's not about that. This is more about how odd parasocial relationships are and how that translates to feelings from a fan perspective. Because we talk so much now about parasocial relationships and how that affects the creator, and that's good. We need to talk about that because, of course, a YouTuber is very different than a celebrity with a PR team and a security team and all these like layers in between them and the public, whereas a YouTuber has a camera. They have all the jurisdiction over what they share. So it is very different because like normal people don't necessarily know all the best ways to share things, or if one day they'll regret sharing something, or you know, how much is too much information. What do people need to know and what do people not need to know? What are people curious about? What are people not curious about? It's an interesting balance. And parasocial relationships are based on creating a friendship dynamic. Like, it was really easy to make friends in elementary school because you just sat next to a kid and could just be like, you're my friend now. Because you spent so much time together, you're automatically friends because you have a shared experience and time together. So a parasocial relationship mimics that. Like, I was watching Dan and Phil for 10 years. I think I know more about Dan and Phil than I do people I've met in person. Just because they share so much about their life. Like, I know the town they grew up in, I know their birthdays, I know where they went to college, I know what their degrees are in, I know cities they lived in, I know how many siblings they have, I know tons of information about these people, and that's just off the top of my head. Of course, there's tons of anecdotes, like how Dan got fired from his job, and how Phil used to raise hamsters, and all these things that most of the fandom knows because it's in books and it's on their channel and it's everywhere. Like, they share these really personal anecdotes that you would only tell a friend. And their whole dynamic with their fans is based on that connection, that we know stuff about each other. They interact with the fandom. They make jokes with the fandom. We have all kinds of lore and things like that, and they share so much. They share anecdotes about their families and their friends and growing up and how they feel about that stuff and their mental health and their normal health and all of those things. And then to have a secret that is like in your face all the time. They were living together for what, 15-ish years, 16 years? They've been a couple that long and made videos together and talk about their lives, and it's still like a secret when their whole career is based off of telling you about their lives. That feels bad. And not because I'm entitled to know that, but because they offer and offer and offer and build this relationship, and they profit off of this relationship, that you think that we're friends. Not like friends, like I'm not thinking if I went up to him on the street he'd recognize me and we could like chat, but like friends like I know as much about you as I know about my friends. I've spent 10 years watching your content. I've invested time and money and art into this community. Like, it's a very, very big part of my life. It's a very big part of my life. I have 2 other videos on this channel just talking about how impactful they were to me. If a friend were to have done this, if a friend were to have a 16-year-long lie and then suddenly be like, hey, by the way, we're a couple and we have been this whole time. That's a big lie. It betrays fans like me who believed them when they said they weren't a couple all that time, who believed them when they said, we're just best friends and we live together because we're friends and we live in the same city and we have the same job and we get along, so we live together. There's explanations for everything. Lots of people have roommates in the city. They've known each other a long time. They have similar interests. They're business partners and friends. Why not live together? They work from home. This is just easier. All these explanations make me look so dumb. As a person that watched them for 10 years, every time I would introduce them to someone new, people would be like automatically like, oh, they're a couple? And I'd be like, no, because they said they weren't a couple, so I believe them. And then everyone would look at me like, they still are a couple. And then I'd be like, no, because they said they weren't. Like, there's like lots of posts where they get very upset if we even suggest it. They don't want to talk about it. They deny it tooth and nail all the time. Like, that's like a big thing. It's very hush-hush. Do not talk about them being a couple. It's offensive to even suggest it. And I was in the fandom. I made like fan edits like to music. Anytime someone would be in my comments shipping them, I wouldn't acknowledge them because Dan and Phil didn't like it when you acknowledged it. So I was like policing the other fans to be like, don't talk about that. Like, they don't like that. That's rude. And now that I know that they were a couple the whole time, I was used. I was used to push their narrative because they didn't want to talk about it. I was made to look stupid in front of my friends and my family because I had the goal to believe them. And then like in their video where they talked about being a couple, they essentially called fans like me stupid. They were like, well, some people just denied it altogether, that they could never be a couple because they're straight or whatever.
There were a lot of people that were like, fan is not real.
No.
They are straight Christian boys.
Trad lads.
Sport.
But that's what they said. Like, that's what they would tell the public. They would tell the public that they weren't a couple and that like Dan would even deny being gay at all for like a long time. And I know that was like a personal journey and I can give him that. Like when you're in your early 20s and you just lash out because you're like, leave me alone, you know, like similar to someone teasing you about having a crush on someone at school that you do have a crush on. But then you go like, no, I don't have a crush on him. Stop it. Like, leave me alone. Stop saying I have a crush on Greg. I don't have a crush on Greg. But that's like a very childish, defensive thing to do. And fair enough if you're 20 something and you're brand new to the internet and you can't handle all this. And okay, lash out. I get it. Like, you're emotional. You're scared. That's fine. Like, I mean, logically that happens. But then in 2019, both Dan and Phil came out as gay, and then this is when I was like, okay, so you'll just say that you're a couple then, because you're okay with that now? And then he's like, nope, we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that. We're still just best friends. We're still best friends. And I was like, okay. And then they bought a house together that they built and designed together. And I was like, okay, so they're a couple. And they're like, nope, we're just best friends. We're just business partners. We're just comedy partners. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, you have a house. I feel like that now would be the time to say. And then they waited 6 more years and now they've said. And logically, I understand their reasons. Like, stop getting in our business. I don't need to talk about everything. Like Dan saying he wasn't ready to even, like, be publicly gay for, like, a long time. But, like, and I know processing trauma and emotions are all very complicated and take a long time to process, but, like, this is still a mean, betrayal, bad thing to do. Like, to use well-meaning fans and then make fun of them for believing you. Like, excuse me. Thanks for making me look like an idiot for 10 years then. If this was a friend, you would probably not want to be friends with them anymore.
How could you even say that? I'm a great friend. If you were a great friend, you would have told Mr. Winsky the truth. Okay, one thing. You can't get mad about you only care about yourself.
And this isn't like something to be like canceled over or to say like he's a terrible person. It's just, this was just a mean thing to do. It was mean to do to your friends, to betray their trust, to use them for your ends selfishly because you couldn't handle your life, that you put it on everybody else and then didn't even apologize about it. Like, I would just appreciate that, because instead the way that they handle it is more like, some people were really bad and stalkers and we really didn't like that, but then there were other people who weren't like that, so thanks. And it's like, well, you're welcome. But I did also invest in this, and my investment very much benefited you, and now it's making me look stupid. So, you know, and some people could respond with, you don't know them, and who cares what they do? I care. It's been 10 years of my life. So yes, I care. I watched them because I thought they were like me, and we had some sort of, not literal rapport, but like a shared interest in sharing our lives, a shared interest in trying to be our authentic selves, a shared perception of the world and morals and things like that, and to find out that it's like, well, no, because I didn't respect you enough to apologize after I used you. So, I know this is very emotional, and I'm not going to be this mad about it probably in just like a week from now, so who knows how long this is going to be up, but I wanted to document how I'm feeling, because when I got the news that they were a couple, I wasn't excited, and I was wondering why. So I've just been exploring that. Ugh. Using me for my goodwill, for believing you, making fun of me for trusting you. That's rude. That's rude. That's rude. It would be one thing if they stuck with the narrative of like, we don't talk about our personal relationships. Just watch the channel and leave it at that. Like, old Taylor Swift interviews were just like, listen to my music. I don't want to talk about my relationships in interviews. Just go listen to the music. Just go listen to the music. That tells you everything. If they just handled it like that, and I, have the thought of, well, they don't have a PR team. They don't have a PR team. How do they know to say that? And I'm like, okay, yeah, right away, when they first started, when they first blew up, of course not. They didn't have a PR team. But then they were on the BBC, and they have been popping for 11 years now-ish. They could have hired a PR team once they knew that they'd be on the radio. Like, then they were literal public figures, like on network things, like official networks. They could have gotten a PR team at that point, so that's not a great excuse. And that's the thing, right, because I'm not entitled to their relationship, but then they go on and share tons of stuff about their lives and then don't share this one super big thing that they just talk around all the time. Like, it was shady. Okay, it was shady. And yes, I get logically, like, I don't want to tell anybody. I barely can tell myself. And I can say that, but then also logically think, like, you were a couple, though. It's not just you were gay and didn't want to tell people. You were in a relationship. Your whole life was built around this relationship. Maybe that not the romantic side of it, but it was based around this relationship. And that was kind of like saying, like, this shirt, this shirt is green. It's a green shirt. It's a green shirt, and don't ask me about it, because if you ask me about this shirt not being green, I'm going to get very mad. And, like, yes, emotions, triggers, trauma takes time to process. But then once it was processed, acknowledge all the shady things you did to cover it up. You know, like, you do bad things when you're stressed. Fair. But that hurts people. Like, the creators are people, but the audience is people too. People that you built rapport with who give you money, and then to be used in return, and then called stupid for believing them. That feels bad. That feels bad, and I would like an apology. I would like an apology for all the well-meaning fans, and not just a explanation about why, but actually saying, like, I'm sorry we had to do that to you. I'm sorry that we put you in that position. And not tell me that I'm dumb for believing them when they said that they weren't a couple and that they were straight. And maybe, because that doesn't make you stupid. That makes you, like, friendship. I know this isn't a real friendship, but, like, say it were, the way brains work with friendship, any relationship requires vulnerability and trust. And to build your career off of that vulnerability and trust, and then be like, haha, psych, we lied to you and the people that actually treated us like friends, well, y'all were dumb. Y'all were dumb for believing us. Yeah, so I would just like it. I don't know. I'll get over it. I know they're public. I know Dan and Phil are public figures, and this is mostly about Dan. Did I lose anything tangible? No. But I lost trust in them. Especially because their recent videos, like the past few years, like since they brought back the gaming channel and went on tour again, like, it's all been like baiting their relationship. Like, Dan and Phil do a couple quiz, Dan and Phil on date night, Dan and Phil are getting married, Dan and Phil are getting divorced. Like, that was funny when everybody was like, haha, yeah, people always make fun of you for being a couple. Show those bad fans who's boss by making fun of the idea that you could even be a couple. That's funny. It seems now that that was only funny to them because they were a couple and we weren't in on it. Like, they were just baiting everybody with, like, relationship content while, like, still lying about it. Because I used to view that as just fun, like, well, they're not a couple, but everybody makes fun of them for being a couple. This is tongue-in-cheek, hee, clickbait. But it's much more nefarious than that because they were a couple. And they were using the fact that people believed that they weren't. They were baiting people with the truth, knowing that they were lying this whole time. I know it's not the end of the world, but it is a betrayal. they don't need to be like kicked off the internet or something, and people that joined the fandom recently probably don't even care. But as somebody who used to defend them and stuff, and would defend them to people in my personal life and say like, well, I believe them, and if they say they're not a couple, they're not. Like, geez, guys. Why should I believe you on anything? And even when they said that they were a couple, I barely believed them, because they're always being sarcastic or making little jokes, and I don't know what the truth is. Like, now I'm like, wait, are you a couple? I mean, like, yeah, but wait, what? Like, what is the truth? You just told me 8 different conflicting stories. Like, anyway, yeah, so this was weird and emotional. Probably seems very strange and personal, but it is very strange and personal. Parasocial relationships are very weird. Like, because I was truly betrayed, and I don't even know them.